Hello and welcome to today's student CPD session, which is looking at how to develop you as a reflective learner. And in fairness, this is something that I believe takes a lot of time and a lot of humility to get your head around. So this could be the starting point for you, but it might be the turning point as well. It's an incredibly useful technique and it's something that will help you with your personal relationships, your professional relationships, and even the relationship you have with your studies. It's not going to be an awful lot of time, but I'm hoping that the things that we discuss and maybe the strategies I suggest are going to support you and again make your life a lot easier. Understanding to start off with then what we're actually talking about. Reflection has a variety of different understandings when it's in its different context. So where I'm thinking about with this one is the second. So it's serious thought or consideration. And mostly that is then followed up with a strategy or a target or an ambition. If you've watched the video where we spoke about responding to feedback, one of the best things about the student in that scenario is that not only does he acknowledge the feedback that he receives, but he always then makes this plan to move on from it. And that's what reflection allows for you to do. It relies on looking back, thinking about what's gone before, and then putting into practice those activities and ideas that are going to support your next step forward. So, now, for any history students out there, hopefully you will immediately recognise this fine-looking gentleman. This is Oliver Cromwell of the usurping, taking over the government fame. Now, he was famous for a lot of things. Even after his death, his body was dismembered because Charles II wanted to have the final say, even though he'd already died. So he's a complex character in our British history. So why is he appearing here? One of the things that Cromwell was famous for was that he said, "Paint me warts and all." There were no photographs, unsurprisingly, in the 17th century, but there were paintings, because even then people had the desire to be immortalised, and this is the way that it was done. Equally, that was a period where if you didn't do a good job, it wasn't just your livelihood, it could be your life. So when you're painting perhaps one of the most powerful men of the country, the protectorate that was, you would want to have it perfect. But Oliver Cromwell said no, warts and all. He wanted to be remembered for exactly who he was and at the time is. With that, I imagine a great role model. The idea of being able to look at your behaviour, your attitude and your values and not see perfection, but to see the flaws. Now here's the problem. You're not allowed to fixate on the flaws. You're not allowed to pull out all of the problems and stay there. You have to think about how you can accept the things that are just a part of your study habits, but then also address the things that can change, address the things that are problematic to you, and get comfortable with where you are in your program, where you are on your learning journey. So that's why I've put Cromwell into this, because he was willing to see himself for who he truly was and have that immortalised. So see yourself for who you truly are, but don't let it stop there. On my way to becoming a teacher, I had to do a variety of micro teachers, so mini teachers, and then I obviously had to do a placement to prove that I was capable of leading a class, of monitoring behaviour, delivering content. Thankfully, I passed with flying colours. But part of the requirement was that we had to keep our PDJ, which was a personal development journal. We only had to produce, I think, a maximum of 20 entries, but I got so into the habit of doing this, for every lesson that I taught, I wrote a journal. I wrote how it related to theory, what I had done, how it had become important, and what I was going to take from it. It made my essay writing for the end of my teaching degree incredibly easy, I have to say. But it didn't stop there. The book on the left of this is a photograph of the book I walk around with in my pencil case, so it's quite small. And every time I read an article that makes me ponder, makes me think, makes me pause, I write it in my little journal so that I can come back to it. I can reflect on it. I can give it deep and considerate thought and think about how it either challenges my teaching or how I could use it to challenge my students. I would be lost to death if this book were to disappear because it's all handwritten. Which brings me to my next point. It doesn't have to be in this format. The practice of being reflective is just taking a moment, just pausing, thinking about what went well, thinking about what didn't go well, acknowledging what didn't go well, remember warts and all, but moving forward. Now, I am traditionally a technophobe, and up until recently, I would have worn that badge with pride. However, because of lockdown and because of the very steep learning curve that has afforded us, I've found a variety of different techniques and ways to enhance my own reflection, and that actually appears in an app. I highly recommend presently. It is free to download and it's very neat. So you can write different things on your app for the day. And you can give yourself a time prompt. So at 9 p.m. every day, I get this little buzz on my phone asking me, what was good today? And so as you can see, I write down short sentences, just pockets of memory, and not even every day, but often enough that I can be grateful for something. I can look back and think, yes, that was what was good about that day. So it gives me the right attitude moving forward. What I want you to think about for today's task is how you could be a little bit more like Cromwell. I want you to create a habit, or at least a plan of a habit, because you have to start it today, but then you have to maintain it, that's going to support your way to being a reflective learner. One way you could do this is looking at the results you've achieved this last year and thinking about the way that you did. What were the contributing factors before the assignment, for example? Were you prepared? Were you not? And be honest. This is something that's to help you. It's about your progress, not the person you're sat next to. So if you had prepared brilliantly, but the assessment didn't go well, what was the thing that let you down? Was it timings of the exam? Was it not really understanding the question? Getting to the point where you can look back with the critical eye in a way that's supportive. Remember, warts and all, Cromwell didn't shy away from what could be perceived as his less than attractive features, but he wasn't embarrassed by them, he embraced them. So look back not with embarrassment and not with a sense of guilt, but embrace them as life lessons and a way to improve your continuing professional development.